the area of the barracks in which we lived was about 12 by 20 feet. And there was no running water, one light bulb up top. We ate in mess halls. And at the beginning, if you couldn't get to the mess hall, you didn't eat. We used latrines that had no privacy. There were no nice little stalls. It was all just wide open. And as a result of that, people like my mother would wait until late at night to try and use the bathroom, except all the other mothers had the same idea, and so they would bump into each other in the dark, trying to get to the latrine and have a little privacy. So while the camps that we were put into were not death camps in the sense of what happened to the Jewish population, we still term them concentration camps, because that indeed is what the United States termed them, until they got smart and decided to rename them things that sounded a little more palatable. So you have relocation, internment, places where we were sent prior to the completion of the building of the 10 major camps were called assembly centers. One of those happened to be Santa Anita Racetrack. So people mucked out the stalls, so you take the manure out. The walls were whitewashed, and people actually lived in horse stalls for a number of months before the camps were finished. The camps went all the way from California to Arkansas. The ones in Arkansas were in the swamp. But they all had about, give or take, between 8,000 to 10,000 prisoners. And we lost everything material in being forced to leave our homes and farms. But more than that, I believe, is the psychological damage that was done to us. And I would say that it's akin to PTSD, post-traumatic stress, although it's something that I think very few Japanese Americans actually acknowledge. A phenomenon that developed was that people of my parents' and grandparents' generation never wanted to talk about what had happened. And it was left to the third generation, which I'm moving to actually go back and look into it and try to discover the true reasons why we were sent away. I don't speak Japanese because all of the parents basically universally decided not to teach their children Japanese. They wanted us to grow up all American, so that once hopefully we were released, we would be able to make our way better. There was a communal laundry room where my mother somehow got a little wagon. She used to put me in all of the laundry and then drag the wagon across the desert sand to the laundry room, and then she would wash me in the old cement tubs. And I can remember even then, even as a small child, being horrified that I was out there for all the world to see being scrubbed down. It's often said that the Japanese reacted kind of like they're victims of abuse or of rape, where you think that it was your own doing that caused it. Maybe you didn't dress the right way, or you were in the wrong place when you were attacked, and none of which, of course, is true. And so it's a misplaced guilt that many of the Japanese bear. And so many of the Japanese then went on to educate their children to the guilt, buy their home in the suburbs, put 2 cars in the garage, and hope that they were assimilated. And I think it's such a shame that women that I know have had their eyes operated on to look more American, and to put the epicanthic fold in there so that somehow they would fit in better. The out-marriage rate for Japanese American females is over 70%. The out-marriage rate for Japanese males is over 60%. And I attribute that directly to the feeling of wanting to be accepted, because what says more to be accepted than to have someone of the dominant society wanting to bear his children? I know people fall in love and get married, but to have a statistic that strong within one generation, I think really points to something else. It points to the psychological damage that we suffered, the feelings of non-self-worth, having to prove that we were loyal. The 442nd Regiment Combat was comprised of volunteers, mostly from Hawaii, but also from the mainland, from the camps. The United States then went on to draft our young men from behind barbed wire to go and fight for freedom and democracy, which I just find utterly incomprehensible. There were equally young men as those who volunteered to go into the U.S. military who resisted the draft. They didn't say that they wouldn't fight. They said, give us back our constitutional rights, and then we'll go and fight. Most of those resistors were from Heart Mountain. 67 of them went on trial in Casper, Wyoming. They were convicted of draft dodging and were sent to Leavenworth, which is a federal prison, and maybe turn it more to Amache, where we just received a grant to do some restoration work. We have money now to build one of the guard towers. And the guard tower at Amache is very different from the guard towers at the other camps. It's 8-sided, octagonal. And for those of you with some military background, it's actually for line of sight so that you can kill people more easily. It gives you better line of sight than a square. Build a fire. And then there was a water tower that supplied the camp, and so we have found the remains on a farmer's land, and we brought it back, and we're going to rebuild that. And then we're in the process of authenticating several barracks that we hope to bring back. They've been used for storage or other things in small towns around southern Colorado. So we're going to try to purchase those, bring them back, and use it as a visitor center so that we can bring in some of the things that are in a small museum that's now located in Grenada. And it's run by the high school students of Grenada High School, and also by John Hopper, their history teacher, who, when he came to Grenada a number of years ago, maybe 20 years or so ago, said to himself, this is a ready-made history project. So he has a special class that usually has 6 to 8 different students, since it is a small town. This is not good for historical accuracy, but they put in a lawn and trees and drip line irrigation system, and so the area around the cemetery is actually very nice when we go once a year on a pilgrimage in Maine. So we give all due credit to once again, a wonderful teacher, John Hopper, and his students who have, over the years, gone to Japan on kind of an exchange program. They have a truck and a trailer, and so they have a little traveling show, and they'll do presentations. I mean, that is something that you would like to have them do. They're not so far away from Colorado Springs. And yes.
They were here last year.
Oh, they were.
Okay.
Okay. Wonderful. So it's due to people like John Hopper and the residents of Grenada and the people who have been willing to pay attention to the true history of the site and to keep it alive and make that kind of history known.